This is a project that has had appetite for some time, and the legitimacy of having this program was emanated from the heads of states in the African Union Assembly, who raised discontent on the manner of operation from the big three international rating agencies, that is S&P, Moody's, and Fitch. From the background that over the years since 1994, when the first rating was assigned to South Africa, there's been a general decline in the creditworthiness of African states, at least according to the big three. And when on the other side, member states feel that it's actually the opposite, because there's been a significant improvement both in the economic growth, economic trade, and also the human capital, and as well as the socio-economic development. So that's one of the reasons. And secondly, that there's been a lack of development on the domestic market because of a low appetite from investors to invest in the domestic financial markets because of the high appetite of international capital to be invested outside the continent. So the rationale is that if we have an African rating agency that is able to rate African instruments, it will bring some dimension of risk perspective from an African context that will avert some of the high perception of risk in Africa. And that should be one of the catalysts to calm the capital to stay longer on the continent. CARE has been very instrumental in the progress that we have had so far since last year, July, when we started having engagements with them. They have exhibited a high appetite to support the African Union in terms of technical capacity that is needed. I'm sure you understand the complexity of this project because of the intensity of work that needs to go into it. So our collaboration is that CARE is offering us technical support because there is a lot of groundwork that needs to go into it besides just the financial support. But in terms of conception of the legal structure, the financial structure, as well as the ownership structure. And coming from the dimension that CARE has been instrumental in the development of the Mauritian bond market, and that they've been established relatively a short time back, and they've built this brand, which is now operating in outside Mauritius and in Kenya and South Africa. So in terms of the timelines, we are hoping from the expert analysis that we have done that we have all the variables that we need in place from the African Union policy organs approval to the endorsement from ministers of finance, as well as the processes within the African Union to give us the necessary currents to push this project forward. So we are hoping that by December this year, 2024, we should be able to see some a temporary structure of this institution coming into life. I think it's crystal clear that this institution will be very relevant in the development of financial markets in Africa. Because as you may be aware, financial markets trade opinions. And the opinion space has been dominated by the big three. And from a surface analysis on the risk analysis of the big three is that there is conservatism in the approach of risk in Africa, which has led to an overestimation of risk. Why? Because analysts are not based in Africa, number one, and number two, that they are skeptical to make mistakes by underestimating risk. So this institution, we presume that it will bring a unique competency in the analysis of risk in Africa because it has an opportunity to access some of the data that the big three might not be able to access, and that it will have analysts who are hardwired into the economic environment of Africa, and also that it has a unique dimension of including other variables that are not weighed into the methodologies of the Big Three. So we hope that by these competencies, since investors look for credible information and they look for the most comprehensive analysis to do their own judgments on the instruments as well as the risk-return model in the analysis and trade-offs. So we hope that that dimension will bring the risk down to some extent, and that investors will also be able to consider investing through domestic currencies and lessen the burden of foreign exchange risk. It's a space for opinions, as I said, and the prerogative is on institutional investors or individual investors to consider and accept, and that you can't force on investors to do. As we always say, that credibility is a function of time. The three international rating agencies have been in existence for approximately 100 years. And this institution, although we perceive that it will have some advantage because of the acceptability from the member states, we hope that it will have to prove itself by the quality of analysis that it does. Of course, there will be a challenge because the natural skepticism of markets will always be there, no matter the form or shape that it will take in its establishment. But we are hoping that at some point in time, if there is value in the information that this institution will churn out, they should be able to catch the attention of investors, at least those who are logical, in the shortest space of time. I always put this point through that what the African Union is seeking is not favors from the Big Three rating agencies or favorable ratings, because favorable ratings that have no legitimacy or background, it will not change the perception of the market. What the African Union is seeking for is a correct or accurate rating, that is a correct reflection of the creditworthiness of the instruments they issue. So investors, if there is a disparity in the ratings of the same country, investors would want to look at the merits of why this rating is different. So there should be sufficient justification to justify and substantiate that disparity, which we think that that's where the distinctive competence will lie.